The street was silent except for the occasional hum of a distant car or the low whisper of the wind brushing fallen leaves along the curb. It was past midnight, and the city seemed to sleep but beneath a flickering, broken streetlight near the edge of an alley. A small figure stirred. He was no more than 8 years old, his knees drawn to his chest, arms tightly wrapped around himself as though he could squeeze out the pain. His hoodie was far too thin for the cold, and the dirt on his jeans had dried in streaks that spoke of a fall a bad one. A bruise was forming across his cheek, swelling purple and raw. One of his sneakers was missing. His sock was soaked and muddy. His name was Eli, but no one knew that, not tonight. Tonight, he was just a silhouette against the dark, another forgotten shape in a city too busy, too tired, or too scared to care. The first few hours, he whispered, "Help." It was timid, broken, more a plea to the air than to anyone specific. But when no one came, he raised his voice. "Please, ... help me ... Still nothing. And eventually, through a throat that had begun to burn, he cried out louder, "Help! Someone help me!" And the people came. They walked past in pairs and alone, with earbuds in or hoods up. A man in a suit glanced once and hurried away. A group of teenagers laughed and didn't even notice him. A woman pushing a stroller crossed the street to avoid him altogether. No one stopped. No one asked. No one even looked for more than a second. Eli's ankle throbbed. He remembered the pain sharply the moment he leapt over the railing behind his building, the slick metal giving way beneath his shoe, the hard landing that snapped something inside him. He remembered lying there for what felt like hours before, dragging himself down the alley, hoping someone would notice him. But the world was not kind tonight, and so he waited. How did he get here? The story didn't start on the street. It started in a small apartment on the 4th floor of an old, crumbling building. The wallpaper peeled like dried skin. The pipe screamed when the taps ran. And inside, Eli's world was a cage of silence and fear. His father used to be someone else, a mechanic who would sing to Eli while working under cars, who used to bring home chocolate bars and tousle his son's hair with grease-stained hands. But then came the accident. The factory job, the fall, the lawsuit that never came, and the bottle that never left. After that, the man who once loved him became someone else entirely. Eli learned to move quietly, learned which floorboards creaked, which drawers to avoid. He became an expert at pretending to sleep, at disappearing into corners. Some nights the shouting was just noise. Other nights it was louder, closer. Sometimes it was Hans, his mother, had left 3 years ago. She told Eli she was going to the store and never came back. At first, he believed she would return. Every night he sat by the window. Every car horn was a hope. Every footstep in the hallway a maybe. Eventually, he stopped, waiting. She wasn't coming back. On this night, just hours before midnight, it had gotten worse. The shouting was short but sharp, triggered by a broken plate. Eli hadn't even dropped it. It had slipped from the overstuffed sink as he reached for a glass of water. The crash was loud. The silence afterward was louder. And then the door flew open. He didn't remember much. Just the roar of rage, the sudden sting across his face, and the desperate decision to run. Out in the cold. City felt like another world when you were outside without purpose. Stores were closed, lights dimmed. The chill crept into the bones. Eli limped, his ankle screaming every time he put weight on it. He didn't know where he was going. He only knew he couldn't go back. He passed 2 closed food trucks and a row of trash bins before finding the corner where the broken street light flickered above a cold slab of concrete. He sank down slowly, biting his lip against the pain. He was dizzy. His stomach ached. His face throbbed from the hit. But the silence? It was better than home. He stayed there, hugging his knees, rocking ever so slightly. And when the fear returned, the cold bit deeper and the wind started howling louder, he cried out, "Help!" A pair of headlights washed over him. He looked up, hopeful. But the car kept going. "Please," he tried again, voice cracking. A man walked by with groceries, looked directly at Eli, paused, then picked up his pace and vanished around the corner. Eli didn't understand. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't being quiet. Was it that they didn't believe him? That they didn't care? Or had he truly become invisible? The city that doesn't see time stopped making sense. Minutes felt like hours, hours like days. His fingers were numb. His lips were cracked. And still, they passed him, people in coats and scarves, people with warm homes waiting for them, people who looked and looked away. He screamed at one point, a loud, desperate yell that rang out into the street. A dog barked. A window opened. Someone looked out, squinted, then closed the curtain again. Even pain was no longer sharp. It dulled into a constant pressure, throbbing, pulling, dragging him down. And just when he thought he might fall asleep and not wake up, he saw something move across the street. A girl, maybe a teenager. She was alone, wearing a hoodie and carrying a plastic bag. He wanted to call out again, but his voice didn't come. But something was different this time. She noticed him. Last year she didn't run, didn't cross the street. She stared for a long moment, then took a cautious step closer. Eli didn't know what to do. He wanted to ask for help again, but he couldn't. He was too tired. His eyes welled up and he let out a sob instead, a soft, broken sound. For the first time all night, someone responded. "Hey," she said, her voice unsure. "You okay?" Eli just looked at her. His lips moved but no sound came. She looked around. "You hurt?" He nodded. She stepped forward slowly. "I'm Layla," she whispered. "I won't hurt you." And with that, she sat down beside him and opened her plastic bag. Inside was half a sandwich and a bottle of water. She handed him the sandwich without a word. He took it, his hands shaking. The first bite made his stomach cramp, but he kept eating. She didn't ask questions. She didn't force him to talk. She just sat there quietly. As the night stretched on, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Eli wasn't alone. The cold pressed down harder as the night grew deeper, wrapping around Eli like a heavy, invisible blanket of silence. The tiny warmth he'd felt from Layla's half sandwich had long since faded. His body still trembled, but now from exhaustion as much as from the cold. The pain in his ankle had dulled, turning into a sick ache that pulsed with each heartbeat. Layla remained beside him, her back against the graffiti-stained wall, arms wrapped around her legs. She didn't ask too many questions, didn't probe. At his story, she only said things that made Eli feel like maybe he wasn't entirely invisible anymore. "Some nights are bad," she said softly, staring at the stars behind the street lamp's flicker. "This one's not the worst I've had, though." She handed him her water bottle. He took it with two hands like it might slip away if he wasn't careful. "You been out here long?" he finally asked, his voice small, hoarse from crying. Layla nodded. "A while. I go between places. This corner's quiet." There was a strange strength in her voice, like she'd learned how to live in a world that never quite welcomed her. Eli didn't understand how someone only a few years older than him could seem so strong and so alone. The weight of silence, the minutes stretched, heavy and wordless. A car drove by slowly, its headlights brushing over them for a moment. Eli flinched as if expecting to be dragged back home. Layla didn't move. "You scared of someone?" she asked gently. He didn't answer right away. Then he whispered, "My dad." That was enough. Layla didn't press. She just nodded and pulled her hoodie tighter around herself, her face unreadable. In the dim light, Eli wanted to say more. He wanted to explain everything, how his mom left, how he tried to be good, how he told himself things would get better. But the words stuck in his throat like they didn't want to leave him exposed again. Instead, he asked, "Why did you stop for me?" Layla looked at him then, her dark eyes steady. "Because I've been the one no one stopped for." Her words. Hung in the air, heavier than the night. A world that looks away around 2:30 a.m. The city stirred again in strange, quiet ways. A man in a hoodie passed them, muttering something neither of them understood. Later, a delivery truck rumbled down the street, its driver humming a tune with the window down. None of them stopped. No one seemed to even see the two kids sitting there, one bruised, limping, hungry, the other guarded, hollow-eyed, tired of expecting kindness from strangers. At one point, a police car turned onto their street. Eli tensed. He wasn't sure why, but fear shot through him like electricity. Layla pulled her hood lower and looked away. "Shouldn't we wave them down?" Eli whispered. "No," Layla said quickly. "Sometimes they don't help. Sometimes they just make things worse." That scared Eli more than he could admit. He had always thought the police were supposed to help. But Layla spoke from experience. Her voice wasn't angry, it was just tired. "They'll ask questions," she continued. "Call someone. Your dad maybe." Eli's heart sank. That was the last thing he wanted. The police car passed by. Neither of the officers inside looked their way. The edge of collapse around 3 a.m. Eli's body began to truly shut down. His vision blurred. He kept blinking hard, trying to stay awake. The concrete beneath him seemed to pull him downward like it wanted to swallow him whole. His lips were numb. His hands shook with every breath. Layla noticed. She scooted closer and took off her hoodie, placing it over him. Underneath, she wore only a thin t-shirt. "You'll get cold," he protested, his voice barely more than a whisper. "I'm used to it," she murmured. "You're not." That quiet act of kindness felt bigger than any blanket or shelter. It felt like something Eli hadn't known in years, someone caring without being asked. She rubbed his arms to bring warmth back to his skin. "You sleep," she said. "I'll stay awake." "But what if someone—" "I'll be here," she repeated. The wind blew stronger, scattering a paper bag across the street. Far away, a siren screamed through the city, distant and uncaring. Still, she stayed. A glimmer of humanity just before dawn, something shifted. Layla stood suddenly. Eli stirred and blinked up at her. She motioned for him to stay put and quickly jogged across the street. He blinked the sleep from his eyes and saw her talking to someone. A woman, older, maybe in her 40s, wearing a food service apron and unlocking the back entrance to a small soup kitchen. Layla was talking quickly, gesturing toward Eli. The woman looked concerned, then skeptical, then suddenly horrified. Moments later, the woman was kneeling beside him. "My God." "Honey," she said softly, brushing Eli's hair from his face. "You're freezing." Her voice was gentle but firm. She wrapped him in a thick blanket and asked Layla something Eli couldn't hear. Layla nodded. The woman turned back to Eli. "I'm Sandra," she said. "I help run the kitchen here. Let's get you warm, okay? You're safe now." Safe. The word echoed inside him. Eli didn't know whether to trust it, but his body didn't argue. It just let go. Warmth, like a dream inside the back room of the soup kitchen. The air was warmer, full of the scent of fresh bread and eggs. Eli was placed in a chair, wrapped in more blankets, given warm broth to sip slowly. Layla sat beside him, chewing the inside of her cheek, quiet and watchful. Sandra called someone. "No, not police, a social worker. No, he's terrified." "Please just send someone who knows how to talk to kids." "Yes, now." When she hung up, she turned to Eli. "You want to talk about it?" He shook his head. "That's okay," she said. Kindly, "You don't have to." Layla looked at him then, her expression soft. "She's one of the good ones," she whispered. "She helped me once too?" That meant more than anything Sandra could have said. Small steps toward Hopenhauer. Later, the sun began to rise. A soft golden light poured through the soup kitchen windows, casting long beams across the floor. For the first time in over 12 hours, Eli felt like the world might not be trying to break him. A woman arrived calm, kind-eyed, with a clipboard and no uniform. She spoke to him gently, asked permission before each question, offered a juice box and a quiet place to sit. Eli answered only a few things. He didn't want to go back. His dad hid him. He didn't know where his mom was. That was enough. The woman promised he wouldn't have to go home again. Then she turned to Layla. "You found him?" Layla shrugged, suddenly shy. "He was just there. I couldn't walk past." The woman smiled, something almost maternal in her expression. "You did the right thing." Layla looked down at her shoes. No one had told her that in a long time. Letting go of the night before leaving the kitchen, Eli turned back to Layla. "Will I see you again?" She hesitated. "You might, maybe." Then she smiled a small, sad, brave smile. "You'll be." "Okay, now, I know it." He didn't know what to say. So he just said the one thing he hadn't said to anyone in a long time. "Thank you." She nodded and disappeared out the back door, pulling her hoodie tight again. The social worker led Eli toward a van with a warm blanket in the back seat. He climbed in slowly, the pain in his ankle still there but dulled by the blanket. The food, the promise died as the van pulled away from the curb. Eli looked out the window one last time. The street was empty again. The broken street light still flickered, casting its unreliable glow on the corner where he had sat all night hurting, crying, ignored. But it was over now. The night had ended. He was finally seen. The van hummed quietly as it rolled through the early morning streets. Eli sat curled in the back seat, his head resting against the window, his body half limp with exhaustion. The blanket Sandra had wrapped around him still clung to his small frame like a safety net, soft, warm, and unfamiliar. For the first time in what felt like years, he wasn't bracing for a hand to strike him or a scream to shatter the silence. His breath came slow and even, eyes blinking open and shut with the rhythm of the tires beneath him. The woman in the front seat, the social worker named Carla, didn't speak much. She knew better. Her job wasn't to interrogate, it was to offer safety. And Eli? He wasn't sure he trusted the idea of safety yet, but he was willing to try. A new room. A new silence. They arrived at a tall gray building that looked nothing like home and nothing like the street. Carla helped him out of the van, gently holding his arm as he limped toward the entrance. "Emergency shelter," she explained quietly. "Just for a few days. You'll have your own bed. No one's going to hurt you." Eli nodded, though part of him still half expected someone to grab his wrist and pull him back into darkness. But no one did. Inside, the place was quiet but clean. A woman at the front desk smiled kindly and handed Carla a clipboard. "We've got space in room 12. He'll be okay there." Carla led him to the room small, with white walls and a single twin bed. There was a window, and beyond it, morning light glowed like melted gold. "This is yours for now," she said, setting his blanket at the foot of the bed. "You can rest. I'll come back later with someone who'll talk to you about what happens next. But for now, you don't have to do anything." Eli stared at the bed like it was a foreign object. He hadn't slept in a real one since he didn't remember when. He sat down slowly, testing the mattress with cautious hands. Carla watched from the doorway. "It's okay to sleep," she said gently. "You're safe now." She closed the door quietly behind her. And Eli, alone in a room that wasn't his home and wasn't the street, lay back and let himself cry. Not from fear this time. From relief. The voice that started it all that afternoon. After hours of dreamless sleep, Eli woke to soft footsteps and the quiet creak of the door. It was Carla again, with a warm meal and juice. "How's the ankle?" she asked. "Sore," he said, his voice cracked. "We'll get it looked at soon." "No rush." She sat beside him and opened her notebook. "You don't have to answer anything you don't want to. But I need to know just a little, so we can keep you safe." Eli hesitated. Then he nodded. And slowly, in pieces and pauses, he told her what she needed to know. About his father. About the fear. About the plate that fell and the way the yelling always turned into fists. He told her about the night, the cold, the people who walked past. And then finally he told her about Layla. She stopped. She stayed. She gave me her food. Carla's. Pen slowed. "Do you know where she is now?" He shook his head. "She might not have anywhere to go," he added quietly. "She helped me. I think she needs help too." Carla gave him a soft look. "Then we'll try to find her." The search for a shadow over the next few days. Eli's ankle was treated, his meals became regular, and his bed became familiar. Carla visited him daily. He learned to expect kindness again slowly, hesitantly. He also kept asking about Layla. "She's out there," he said on the third day. "She doesn't trust adults. But she'll listen if someone finds her the right way." Carla made calls. She gave Layla's description to outreach teams and shelters, to soup kitchens and youth workers. No one knew her last name. No one had a photo. But someone remembered a girl matching that description near a bus terminal. They checked. She wasn't there. The next day, another lead, she might have been seen outside a convenience store near the East River. But by the time the team arrived, she was gone. Eli started to lose hope. "She saved me," he said. "I need to save her." Back. An unexpected meeting a week later, on a chilly morning, Carla walked into Eli's room with something in her eyes. A spark of surprise. Maybe even joy. "I think we found her," she said. Eli sat up instantly. "She's at the kitchen. Sandra's place. Came in just before sunrise, asking for bread." "She went back?" Carla nodded. Sandra recognized her. "Talked to her. Layla didn't want to stay, but she asked about you." Eli's heart jumped. "Can I see her?" Carla hesitated. "Only if she agrees. We'll ask." That afternoon, Carla returned with news. She said yes, but only if it's somewhere quiet. Reunited in silence, they met in a small room behind the soup kitchen, where folding chairs faced each other beneath a single window. Layla was thinner, her hoodie more torn than Eli remembered. But her eyes were just the same sharp, tired, brave. Eli didn't know what to say at first. But then, Layla gave him a crooked smile. "You're still alive, huh? You didn't think I would be?" "I hoped," she said, almost too softly to hear. He stood awkwardly. "They helped me." "Because of you?" She shrugged. "I just didn't walk away. That was everything." She looked down at her hands. "They want me to go to a place, a home for girls like me. Said I'd get food, maybe school again. I don't know." "Are you going to go?" She hesitated. "I might. Feels weird." Eli nodded. "It felt weird for me, too. For a while." They just sat there in silence. Then Layla asked, "Are you okay now?" Eli didn't lie. "Getting there," she smiled. "That's good." The choice to stay later that week, Layla entered a transitional shelter for young girls. She was quiet at first, like Eli had been. But when they asked her what changed her mind, she said simply, "A kid needed me once. Someone might need me again." Eli kept asking to write to her. The shelter agreed. So the letters began. They weren't long. "Food here is better than I thought. They gave me a book about stars. Do you like cats? I hope you're warm tonight." She wrote back, "I'm learning to trust them. Someone gave me socks with unicorns on them. I still don't like soup. You were brave, they wrote for weeks. Eli's second sunrise months passed. Eli was moved from the emergency shelter into a foster home. It wasn't perfect, no home ever is, but it was safe. There were rules and dinner at the table and someone who checked his ankle until it healed. He went back to school. Made 2 friends. Read books under blankets with a flashlight and felt his heartbeat slow when he heard footsteps instead of Spike. One night, just before sleep, he whispered something to himself. I'm not invisible anymore. The street still remembers. They say the city forgets fast. But not every place. That corner beneath the flickering streetlight still remembers. People pass it every day, unaware that a small boy once lay there cold, bruised, crying out into a world that didn't hear him. And somewhere, Layla still walks with her hoodie pulled tight, but her eyes scanning the streets, not just surviving, but watching, because she remembers it only took one voice to break the silence. One act of kindness to change the story. One heart to stop walking past. And that was enough. End of part 3.